Hey everyone, this is Coach Phoenix.
And I'm Coach Gina.
And this is Toast with the Coaches. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you all for joining us for another episode of Perspective, the show where we drink and talk about life, the universe, and all that other jazz.
And again, I'm Coach Phoenix, founder and CEO at Role Model Life Coaching, where we focus on transition coaching. At Role Model Life Coaching, we partner with our clients to help them navigate down the road of life toward their model self. We specialize in transitioning from youth and adolescence to adulthood, engaged in newlyweds transitioning into their ideal marriage, transitioning into life after divorce or separation, transitioning from the military into the civilian world, and transitioning to life outside of the closet.
Those are amazing areas of transition. I personally am like, I want a model marriage. That sounds fantastic. Who doesn't want that? So sign up with Phoenix. He's like down the road of your model self. He's like the Porsche or the Audi, the Bentley of coaching.
Come jump into luxury, you heard?
Exactly. I'm Coach Gina. I'm a certified life coach and founder of Clear Focus Coaching, where we specialize in boundaries coaching, setting limits with those around you so you can make space for yourself. I also specialize in empowering women, helping them to recognize their strength and potential in work, life, and relationships so they can face every day with confidence and intention.
So Gina is like that vacation that you go to get your mind right. So if you need to set your boundaries, or you that woman that need to be empowered, definitely holler at Coach Gina. I recommend her.
So, everybody, I need to let you know that this is a very special episode, and this week's episode is made possible by the Innocence Project. The Innocence Project is an amazing nonprofit organization whose mission is to free the staggering number of innocent people who remain incarcerated and bring reform to the system responsible for their unjust imprisonment. They really focus on upholding the Constitution, innocent until proven guilty. And there are so many people who are incarcerated off of false pretenses or false tests or just misinformation. And they work very hard to get those people the justice they deserve and the freedom that they deserve.
Absolutely, absolutely. This episode right here is going to be a powerful one. Listeners, viewers, please make sure that you're in a place where you can focus, pay attention, and you aren't interrupted. This episode is about to break the internet. Right now, please subscribe, share, tell a friend, and comment. I would like to thank the Innocent Project. First, for fighting for justice of the forgotten. Second, for making this episode happen by connecting us with our special guest today. So without further ado, I would like to raise a toast. I would like to raise a toast to a man who was wrongfully convicted in the Bronx, New York, in 1991, who spent the next 19 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Finally, he was exonerated on January 24th, 2019. This man is the quintessential meaning of the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. A marathon runner, motivational speaker, activist from the Boogie Down Bronx, Huwe Burton. Cheers and salute, my brother.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you for your time, because I know at this point in your life, time is valuable. So thank you for your presence, my brother.
Not a problem, man. I'm definitely glad to be here, man. It's you spend so much time waiting for the day in which you can really just stand in your truth and address people and help to right this wrong. So to be here is like it's great, man. I'm glad you guys have me.
Yeah, absolutely. The honor is ours, but I'm glad that you're enjoying being here as well. More than anything, we definitely want to make sure that people have the opportunity to hear your truth.
Great. So, I mean, what's so interesting about it, when we look at that time, in New York City, they paint a picture that's, not necessarily one that is accurate. They would like you to believe that most young Black
Who
men.
they? Can you explain who are
Well,
they?
the government, New York City at the time, the way things were set up, they wanted most people to believe that most of these kids were violent. They were problematic and needed to be put away. And in that mindset, a lot of people who were not like that, myself, the exonerated five, and so many others who may never get the chance to sit here, they were not kids who were into that. They were kids like myself, like them, who were just inner city kids who, went to school. And it's
So
like,
Hugh, let's get to that. What kind of kid were you growing up? Yeah, what kind of kid was you growing up prior to that?
Growing up, prior to that, I'm, a product of Jamaican parents. Both parents came here from Jamaica in 1970. I'm born in 72. They paid for me to go to school. I went to parochial school from grade school right through high school. The 80s in the Bronx were what they were, but they managed to, build a life for themselves, become homeowners, become a business owner, become a registered nurse. They managed to do all these things, and they managed to provide a life for me where I really wanted for nothing.
So you had a good upbringing. You wasn't like a hood kid, even though you say, oh, he's from the Bronx. You wasn't like shaking in the Bronx. You was like going to school,
going to school
to greatness.
Right. Even though, and what's interesting is that even that time, even if those things were going on around you as they were, everyone wasn't impacted by it, where it's like, okay, well, I have to get out here and I have to do the same. Everybody didn't have to do that. Certainly my section of the Bronx, a lot of the people there, a lot of the West Indians were business owners, were homeowners. So a different type of lifestyle was afforded. Yeah, many did go astray, but by and large, for the most part, an environment was created that was unlike what they tried to make many of us believe in the late 80s. So
that sounds like a very very supportive community and a very just hardworking community.
Yeah, it really is. And even if you go there now, you can still see that there are more Africans there now. But I mean, the temperament, the mindset is still the same. Ownership, self-sufficiency. That's just that neighborhood.
But yeah, and that makes sense because I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So in New York, the Fordhams, the downtown Brooklyn, the Jamaican Avenues, it was all small businesses running themselves. So you didn't have like the conglomerates, even though you had the Foot Locker. Right. People went to the side streets, you know what I'm saying? So we went to the neighborhood sneaker stores because they support small business. You got to think, there's no Walmart within the city of New York.
Right.
They stopped that because they so yeah, what you're saying is absolutely true. And
yeah
absolutely.
So, they were able to afford a lot of their children a lot of great opportunities. I mean, if you look at that section of the Bronx, you just to see the amount of Catholic high schools, and a lot of them were predominantly
Rice.
Hispanic. Rice.
Yeah.
You had Cardinal Hayes. I went to Cardinal Hayes.
You went to Cardinal Hayes. Did you play ball?
No, I wasn't really athletic. My thing's always been music. So.
Oh, you was okay.
Yeah, always doing some type of music. But for me, hip hop was the backdrop. So it's like anything dealing with that's what I'm into.
The Bronx. Right. So I always think I started it. Okay. We got it right now, though.
Yeah, but that's pretty much what was going on there. So we were allowed to see something a little bit different than what the media portrayed when I was coming up. By the time the late 80s hit. Mm-hmm. So, again, my childhood was a good one, very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So going to that day, you're 16 years old, you're in school. Mm-hmm. Take us from you getting out of school. What happened next?
Okay, so it's important to go back to that morning.
Let's go.
My dad he had left. He was in Jamaica visiting his mom.
He left that morning?
No, he didn't leave that morning. He left maybe like within the week prior. So he had been down there for a couple days. My mother was just starting a 2-week vacation as a nurse. It was my first day back to school after the holiday break. It was January 3rd. So got up, got dressed. The morning was as normal as any other. Ate. She was sitting on the couch. I saw her and we joked about being better in school for this semester. I'm losing interest in school. I'm like, this is for the birds. I don't like it. Not that
you're 16.
Yeah, of course. It's not that you can't do the work, but it's like, you're losing interest. So we joked about,
Junior year? What year? Junior year?
I was going into junior year. So it was like, listen, just do better. If you don't really like school, just finish it and you be done with it. So we joked about that. I left, went to school. I came back about 2:30 or so. I noticed that her car was gone. It wasn't in the driveway. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if she's running some errands, she should be back. So I come in the house, and I remember we owned this 3-family private home. We lived on the 2nd floor. So I come in the bottom door that leads to the street, and I'm walking up the stairs to our apartment. I can hear the phone ringing. So the phone was right by the door. So I rush in, grab the phone. Girlfriend of mine at the time, it's like, hey, you want to come by? So I'm like, all right, look, mom's is not home. I can go there. By the time I come back, she should be home. I turn right around, close the door. I never go into the apartment because the phone as soon as you open the door. I leave, turn right around, close the door back, go downstairs, go to her place, come back about 5:30, notice the car is still gone. I'm like, well, she should be home any minute. It's January 3rd, it's New York City, 5:30, it's dark outside, or getting to that point. Go inside, now I, take off my things. Now I'm walking towards the back of the apartment where the bedrooms are. My parents' bedroom is the door. I noticed the door is open, which is strange. If no one's in the house, we kind of close doors. Just a habit we had.
Yeah.
That caught my interest. I go into the room, and that's where I find my mom. She had been stabbed. I go to use the phone that's in that bedroom.
Hold on. Wait. You just ran past that, and I know that's not how it happened.
Yeah.
You found your mother. What was your feelings? What went through your
as soon as I found her, I'm screaming because she's face down on the bed, and she's not moving, and the house skirt that she had is kind of like hyped up, over her waist. So I'm screaming, I'm crying, and like I said, some said, well, call the police. And I go to grab the phone to call the police. So it's the old phones, that you pick it up and it's the receiver here, and then it has the base.
Yeah.
And it has the coily cord. But it wasn't there. When I picked the phone up, there was nothing there because they had taken it out and they had bound her wrist with those cords. So I threw that down. I run out into that hallway that I said I came in the first time and used the phone where my girlfriend called. I called the police from there. I couldn't stay. I couldn't even look at the back of the apartment. I ran outside. So I'm screaming and crying. I run outside. The precinct wasn't far from the house, so I'm thinking they should be here quickly.
Yeah.
And they get there, but what was interesting, when I ran outside, the woman who lived downstairs on the 1st floor, she was outside. And I thought it was strange because I had not been in the house that long. It seemed like an eternity, but looking back, I wasn't in the house that long by the time I made the discovery. And she was outside. So
when you come down the stairs, she's outside already.
She's outside, like that front door outside.
Yeah.
So she initially told police she was there because she left her key. We'll get to that, and that was the reason why I brought her in, just so you can keep that in your head.
Yeah, let's keep that.
Right?
I got you.
Focus on that.
All
so
right.
they come. Everything is kind of like it's like a blur, man. You just hear the indistinct chatter of walkie-talkies, and they're asking me questions, and they asked me my whereabouts for that day, and I'm just giving them my timeline for the whole day, where I was, what I had done or whatever.
So hold on, they ask you questions like that rather than knowing that you're a 16-year-old young man.
Right. So they just pretty much wanted to know, okay, so where were you? I guess starting with me, because they know I told them my father's out of the country. Okay, so you were apparently, based off of just what you said, you were the last one to see your mom. So what happened after you left? So they have to follow that. And
okay, gotcha.
Which was it's a natural thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So they asked me if I noticed if anything was out of the ordinary. I'm like, yo, look, when I left this morning, the car was here. It's a 1988 Honda Accord. It was here. It's not here now. I said, that's the only thing that, I know that I can see that's out of the ordinary. So they asked me about my father. I said, my father's out of the country. I have a number for him. They took me to the precinct. I called my father, told him what happened. He jumped on the next flight. He didn't even he just must have just blanked from hearing that, because he just left. He just left his wife and his son to go see his mother.
Yeah.
So
you're like, yo.
But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not hearing this. So it's like, I got to get a flight back to the States. He comes back. He gets back on the 4th. They asked me that night, did I have any place to go? So I had a godmother that lived in Mount Vernon, which is right above the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And she was like, when my mom was working long hours and when my dad, trying to build his business, I would stay there. So I would, commute back and forth from Bronx to Mount Vernon a lot. So from the time I was 16 months old, I'm back and forth there. So I was like,
sorry, and what was her name? What was your godfather's name or godmother's name?
Oh, Eloise Gilmore. Yeah, she just she just passed with COVID too, and oddly enough.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Just passed. She made it through to see all of that happen.
Condolences.
Yeah. So
she was about 100 years old, right?
Yeah, she was exactly 100.
Yeah.
100 exactly.
Gina, I don't want to steal that credit. We do a little bit of research, and Gina actually told me that in our little update prior to the show, but you kind of stole that moment from us. I want throw it back to Gina.
Yeah, but she's also, definitely, but she's also very instrumental in this case. So they brought me there, and I stayed there. I was in the bed. I couldn't eat, couldn't really sleep. I'm sleeping in like 10, 15-minute intervals because the only imagery I can see is what I came in the room to find. It's the only thing I can see.
You're experiencing that trauma. I mean,
it's like, and you're just laying in the bed, and they ask you want to eat something. You can't really hold down any food. You're trying, and it's like nothing even tastes like food. So, finally on the 5th, the officers that brought me there, they called my godmother back, and they said, we want to bring him down for a polygraph test. I was like, I didn't even have the desire to get out of the bed. But in my mind, I'm like, I just want to find out what happened to my mom. Like, all right, whatever they want. And what time are they coming? I'll go. So they get there about 5:30, something to 6 that evening. So they take me and they tell my godmother, they said, look, we'll bring him right back. I'm just going to take him down there for this test. I get down there. They put me in an interrogation room.
Just real quick, was your dad back by this point?
Very, very great question. He was back. He was back by this point, but they knew what they were going to do. So they had to make sure to keep him busy doing something else, keep him separate from me. They need to get me down and separate me from him. It's easier to talk to the godmother than it is the father, because the father's saying, I just lost my wife. He just lost his mother. I'm holding him close. So we're not going to be able to do what we want to do with him. So they had my father dealing with things with the morgue and stuff like that. So he's busy with all of this other stuff.
He don't know that this is going on.
He doesn't know. So they come and get me. Right?
Did anybody advise you at that time that you were underage and that you...
No,
New York is different. In New York, at 16, you get charged. You're like an adult because you go to Allen and stuff like that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Like what y'all would consider the county. So New York, you don't need a parent, correct? I'm right?
Well, at a certain age, they're saying, well, you know what, they can question you without a parent. In New York, that fence is straddled a different way because the oldest one from the Central Park case was Corey. At 16, the others were like in 8th grade. You know what I mean? And if you watch them this year, you know, it's like you see how they isolated it and did what they did. That was common practice in New York in the 80s, especially when it came to us. So they get me down there, and when they come back into the interrogation room after leaving me in there for a while, they asked me to tell them again what I told them on the 3rd. So I'm telling them the same thing. So at some point they said, well, you know, we have evidence that leads us to believe that you are the one who committed this crime. That's how my eyes were. That's just how I just a flush, just blank. And I just start crying. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't. I was in school. Right. I was in school. So then he says, no, we have evidence that says you weren't in school. I'm saying, no, I know I was in school. You know what I mean? I know I went to homeroom. I know I went to all these classes. So now I'm crying, I'm asking for my pops. I'm like, yo, where's my father at? And like, yo, you'll see your father. And then they start going and they're like, yo, you know, you're going to tell us, you know, what we want to hear. You're going to tell us what we want to know. We already know what happened. You might as well just tell us. So now I'm crying. I'm scared to death. And while this is going on, I'm made to feel as if I can't just get up and say, look, I'm done with this talking, I'm out. I'm not made to feel like that. I'm made to feel as like you're in this room and you're not going anywhere until
you tell us what we want.
So now I'm a 16-year-old who had never been questioned by police, stopped by police.
It wasn't about that life.
It just was not in my path.
Nah.
You understand what I mean? So
this is all new and unknown.
And under the circumstances, it's the most extreme new. You feel what I mean? So they're going through there, they're going back and forth with this for a while, and then finally, I'm still saying no. They finally get to a point where they said to me, well, we know where you were at your girlfriend's house, but you're 16. And this is show you how naive to law, and this is why you got to teach us law. So you know you're 16.
Who us? Teach who us?
Got to teach black folks. You have to teach black boys. In particular, you have to teach them the basics of law, civics. Mm-hmm. It's important. They said to me, you're 16, but your girl, she's 13 going on 14. You know, that constitutes statutory rape. If you don't tell us that you committed this crime, not only are you going to go to jail for killing your mom, but we're going to put you in jail for statutory rape. And if you don't know, if you go to Rikers Island for statutory rape, this is what's going to happen to you. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Hear me?
Then you're a chomo.
So now I'm like, oh man, never heard of the term before. Like just hearing the word statutory behind or in front of the word, right? I'm like, the hell is that? You know what I mean? So then they said, okay, well, look, because we know that this was an accident, there's the carrot. Follow me. We know that this was an accident. Just tell us that this was an accident. We know you didn't mean to do this. And we'll have your dad come pick you up from family court. We know you want to see your dad, right? Yeah. Well, he'll be able to pick you up from family court and you won't have to go to Rikers.
Hold on. Wait. You say something interesting, but I'm a New Yorker, so I know what just happened. Family court is for juveniles. So this is what I was saying earlier, Gina. Family court is for juveniles, right? So if you're in other cities, most cities, if you're 17 or below, you get charged as a juvenile, and that's family court. However, in New York City, 15 and below, you get charged as a juvenile. 16 and above, you go to adult court and you go to Rikers Island, which most places would consider your county. That's like our county. So they just told him like, oh, that's the normal circumstance for a 15 and below, right? What they just told him. So you
Right.
understand what they just did to him. I just need to explain that here because
Yeah.
New York City is a different beast, and they kind of lined you up. So continue.
Yeah. So
I'm also not a lawyer or the law in any way, but isn't that coercion to like try to bribe somebody
right.
into admitting
Well,
something?
Well, here's the thing. Once they canvass the neighborhood, and you're asking questions, the first person you're going to ask about is the only one who was living there. You ask about that person first. You know what I mean? Naturally. So as you're canvassing the neighborhood, you're realizing that people like, nah, him and his mother, man, nah, they had a great relationship. Oh no, she gave him whatever he wanted. They're interviewing her coworkers, and they're like, nah, there's never been a problem there. So it was like, now you do that, and then you go look at, let's see if he has any history of anything. Oh shit, this kid doesn't even have fingerprints on file. Wow, this kid is green. These guys are 15, 20-year veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, we got.
So when you saying that,
that was not the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing you said. In our head, I think Jenny, you said the same thing. That means, this kid is green. It can't be him.
No.
But they got the picture of the stage in New York and the mindset of the law. See, it was right here. We got it. Keep going.
So it's like, it's a rush. It's a rush to close this because it's the temperament of the time. So it's a rush to close this. Oh, wow. We got evidence that says the kid wasn't in school. This means he must have did it. Let's put the pressure on him. And it might be easy because he's green. We can get this solved.
Did you ever find out what that evidence was that you weren't in school? Because they have evidence that you saw your girlfriend, and apparently they have evidence that you slept with her, but not that you were in school. So how?
Okay. So great. I'm glad you asked that. So when they went to see if I was in school, when they asked my homeroom teacher, homeroom would have been the time that I would have had to be in my house. So now they got to ask the school, was he here? So they asked that teacher, and initially she said, no, I don't have him in. At that point, I became a suspect in their heads. Mm-hmm. So it's like, let's get him back down here. Here is where the crime took place. That same teacher, when she looked again, maybe a day or two later, saw that, because back then, when you mark a child in at school, it was still done manually with a pen or a pencil or something. Mm-hmm. Being that it was the first day back to school, she said, oh, wow, I marked him on the wrong thing here. He was here. She calls the precinct and sends a letter, sends a copy of it, and calls and says, no, Huwe Burton was here. That piece of paper was hidden for 28 years because that was evidence that put me in school. And if that would have been introduced to the defense, there would have not have been there would have been no case. We would not be sitting here right now. So they hid that one piece of evidence. The Innocence Project, working with them, we find out these things.
Yeah.
So that's how I became, in their mind, well, let's shake the tree and see what falls. Mm-hmm. But they knew by the time they said, okay, well, we broke him. And they start having me do this confession, but it's based off of their eye of what they thought the crime was. Okay, so what happened? So you did this, huh? Yeah, and then this happened. And so they're feeding me things and I'm saying it back to them. Mm-hmm. So this goes on, and we're rehearsing it.
Is the camera on? Because when you get integrity.
Exactly. Glad you said that. No camera on. There's no camera there yet. We're going over this. If you ever get a copy to look at my written confession, on page 2, I got this thing that has like a mark, and I put on it omitted. The reason why that sticks in my head, because at 16, I had never heard the word omitted before. And he had me write it. And I remember asking, how did you spell it? And he told me how to spell omitted. And I was like, I didn't know what that word meant. But there was a part of the written confession that he forgot to have me put in there. And it would have made the confession not really, it would have made it much more shaky. So he had me write it on another piece of paper and put omitted for this part, so you can go to page 3 to look at the.
So what was going through your mind when this is happening, when they're basically feeding you these lines and having you go through this confession of this crime that you did not commit? Like, what was going on for you?
It's important to note that they have me thinking, you have to help us help you. Mm-hmm. Your dad will come and pick you up from family court. We know that this was an accident. You need to get past it. Let's get past this. We're here to help. Most parents back then didn't arm their kids. They didn't send their kids out on some be fearful of the law. We do it now because of so much we saw. But we weren't sent out with that mindset. It was sent out like, yo, listen, you do what you're told. You know what I mean? Don't cause no trouble with people. So in my 16-year-old mind, I'm thinking, I'm helping them help me. The cameras didn't come on until 10 after 3 in the morning. If you ever get a chance to look at the videotape confession, look at the big clock next to me. It's 10 after 3 a.m. I was in there from 5:30 p.m. the day before.
Oh my gosh. So,
right. You know, all of this goes on, and finally they get this confession. By the time the videotape portion of the confession comes, I've been saying it so much, we've been going over it so much. If you look at it, it seems like this flawless 8 to 15 minute thing where I'm just sailing through this. But we had been doing this so much. I wanted to get out of that room so bad. If you would have told me, hey, listen, I want you to say you were responsible for the JFK assassination. Yeah, I was there in '63 in Dallas. It was me. That's, you know what I mean? That's how much I wanted to get out of that room. You know, so after they got that, still being naive, they still had me thinking I'm going to family court and my dad is going to come pick me up and I'm going home. I'm still thinking that this is a factor. They have, since this is happening, they have called the media. I don't know, the media is camped out downstairs in the precinct. All this is going on. In my naive mind, I'm thinking my father's coming to pick me up from family court, and I'll explain to him, Daddy, listen, they made me say that to get out of there. I didn't know what else to say. They made me say that. And he would have known, listen, no, my son didn't commit this crime. I'm walking out, they do the perp walk, and the cameras are flashing, and every news outlet is there, and they're asking me, why did you kill your mother? And I'm like, what is going on? It's
now where your mind's at. Where your mind at now?
Now, it's the deep part. It's still not really, really sinking in. I get into the police car, and they're driving me down to Central Booking. They turn on 1010 Wins. 1010 Wins is saying the same story they had me rehearsing verbatim.
You think that was deliberate? You think they did that deliberately to turn on the radio station?
I don't know. I don't know
if it was psychological. Like that's psychological.
Right. Psychological, or it could have been habitual. Like that's because as soon as they turned the radio on, it was on 1010 Wins. So I don't know if that was the station that they listened to.
Yeah.
And the reporter is saying the same story that they had me going over verbatim. I'm listening to it. And now it's saying to me like, yo, anytime I heard something on this thing, it was a voice of authority, and I knew people were in trouble if they talked about you on here. And I said, nah, something's off. They took me inside down to 161st in the Bronx. They bring me in there, and it's just every eye is on you. Every eye. They just watched this morning, and they're bringing you in. And I mean, I'm terrified. I'm all of 5'5", 140 something pounds. I'm terrified. And they get me in there, and as soon as they get me in there, that's when everything, that's when the nightmare started. And I realized that I'm in serious trouble, and I just need to let somebody know, man. Like, yo, I didn't do this. Thankfully, I had somebody like my pops, man, that was like unwavering in his belief and was like, nah, we're not going for that. And if I didn't have that, they would have done whatever they wanted to do with me.
So what did that look like? So what was the process leading up to the conviction?
So I was arrested, charged, second-degree murder. I was indicted maybe a week later. Three interesting things happened on that day. It was my mom's funeral that day. As I said, I was indicted that day, and they found the car that day. So it's like, okay. So, I was indicted. They tried.
Did you get to attend your mother's funeral?
No, they denied me the right to be there. I did go to, they snuck me, I think, to the wake, like real quick, in and out. It's like as fast as I came in, it seems like I was walking out the door.
Yeah, because I'm in the back of my mind with all of this too. Like, you're going through this honestly traumatizing situation with the officers, and like finding out that all of this is happening to you.
Right.
In addition to it being 2.5 days after your mother is murdered, like, you haven't even processed that yet.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would be. The actual processing of it would be a couple decades. In all honesty.
And you was a close-knit family, so your mother was really important to you. It wasn't like you didn't have a relationship with her. Like, I grew up in a great family. Like, this was like all I knew. Like, this is solid.
Exactly. So, they, what they didn't do, I actually wrote, when they told me I couldn't go, I wrote like the eulogy. I mailed it out and said, yo, please, I beg somebody, like, please, just make sure you read it. They're not gonna let me go. Just read this. So they did. But after that, after that whole thing, the fighting, they tried to convince my pops to leave me with a court-appointed attorney. Thankfully, he was a man who wasn't academically astute, but he was very smart.
That street smarts is where it's at, man. I tell people, yo, brother, I tell you, I'm from New York too. I was a high school dropout to have 2 masters right now, and I'm telling you, man, street smarts is my education, brother.
That's where it's at, man. So he definitely had enough sense to say, wait a minute, man, you saying all this stuff about my son, and now you saying don't worry about his defense. He said, no, I'll take care of that. So he got me the best defense attorney in the city, probably the best defense attorney in the country, in William Kunstler. So William Kunstler started looking at the case and seeing everything and went to bat. We fought hard for 2.5 years.
So you was on Rikers Island for 2 years?
I was on Rikers Island for 2 years, from January '89 until December 7th, 1990. My father managed to scrape up enough to get me bailed out. He bailed me out. It was $100,000. One of the conditions of the bail, the judge was like, look, man, I want you to go back to school. The judge, it's my belief, I believe the judge knew that this was nonsense.
You got bailed out on a murder charge?
Yeah, my pops bailed me out, man, after 23 months. It took him. How
much was your bail?
$100,000. So he managed to get away to put the house up that we had in the Bronx there. They allowed him to put the house up just flat. And it's in the books now. If you go People versus Burton on bail hearings, you'll see the case right there. So we managed to get that. I came home. The judge was like, you got to go back to school. So no high schools really wanted to take me in anymore. The notoriety of the case and everything like that. People were like, nah, we really don't want anything to do with him. One lady was kind enough to say there's a GED program in Bronx Community College. You can go up there. Enrolled in that, got my GED, went to a trade school, enrolled myself into TCI after that. Right when the Pell and TAP grant, I don't know what they have now, but back then it was Pell and TAP. As soon as that stuff came through for that, I lost trial from the street. They remanded me immediately. That was in 1991. So they remanded me, took me back to Rikers Island. We appealed while we were down there, stayed on Rikers Island an extra 5 months. They denied the appeal. and sentenced me to 15 to life. I came upstate 19.
Hold on. Can I stop you real quick?
Sure thing.
All right. So again, Gina, so this is close to my heart because I'm from New York, and again, back in those days when I was growing up, I was about that life. So Rikers Island, man, if you don't know, Gina, is one of the worst jails. Mind you, I didn't say prisons, I said jails, right? The worst jails in America. It's on the level as being one of the worst prisons if you compare it in America, especially when, again, I grew up. So my years was like the late 90s, 2000s, right? Early 2000s. So when he was growing up, Rikers Island was like, that was gladiator school. Yeah. So mind you, he just said that he's in the worst prison in America, and he's a Catholic school kid from a good family, green as hell. Hugh, can you tell Gina and I in the audience what that felt like, what that looked like, that experience walking into in Rikers Island?
I didn't know what I was in for. I knew as soon as I walked in, I knew I had this huge bullseye on my back. And you didn't know where it was going to come from. You didn't know if it was coming from police. You didn't know if it was coming from other guys in there.
Why you had a bullseye on your back? Wouldn't you be respected because you're a murderer?
No, definitely not. Not for this. Not for this crime. This crime is very, very heinous in nature.
Talk about it.
You know, you're saying that, this is what you did. What a lot of people don't know, even in our people would consider our waywardness, even in that, there is a respect and admiration for one's mother. Most dudes started doing what they did because they wanted to change the conditions for their mother. You may have someone in prison who would be there for doing something to someone for talking about their mother before they're there for doing something to their mother. So I am looked at as a pariah from the door. You understand what I mean?
So you've committed a disgraceful crime.
It's not only exactly.
You wasn't on the level of like a rapist or a child molester, but you was right above that.
No, you're actually below that.
Really?
You're actually below that, man. Yeah, you're actually below that. Because again, because of the gravity of the circumstances. You know what I mean? When you look at it like that, we're talking about, you think about it, you're talking about 89. So you're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who may have been tired of seeing their mom having to struggle like that, might have been tired of seeing their mom with this dude or these type of people. So I'm going to do something so you don't have to do that. You understand what I mean? Somewhere, but the allure of all of it, you lose sight, and then you just going hard. But why you started was that, the love of wanting to pull my mom out.
Circumstances, yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So,
to take you back to that moment.
Right, you know what I mean? So that's what Rikers Island was filled with. So they're like, that kid came in here for that. You know what I mean? I'm getting jumped on by police sometimes. You know what I mean? So it's wild, man. You know what I mean? These are, looking back, these are young black dudes. These are dudes that is like 26, 27, 28. They COs though. You feel me? And it's like, that's that kid that's in there for so-and-so. All right, on the next option, man, I'm a crack and sell. You know what I mean? So those kind of things were going on. As time went on, thankfully, I started to meet people, man, and they started to get to know who I was. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know, like something, even in their young minds, they're like, something don't fit, man. Like, you know what I mean? He said he ain't, I don't know though. I don't think so.
How did that feel when you started to make those connections and having those people start to believe you?
The only thing I attribute it to is that you were just getting to know Hugh. You get to know me, there's no way you're going to believe that. That's all I considered it. You're just getting to know me as a person.
And who was Hugh? Who was Hugh as a person?
Man, the guy that whatever you need, man. like, I've always been a person that's still like that. I get in trouble for it now. I'll go without to see that you have. If I know that you need this a little bit more than me, I've been through some things. I'll be okay. You need this a little bit more here. I'm very empathetic to people. I'm probably one of the most grounded people that, you know, one is going to meet in their lifetime, because I have an understanding, not that I'm willing to say I'm going for whatever, but I have an understanding of things, and I don't judge. You know what I mean? It's like we can have conversation. I'm balanced, man. That's who I am. I'm balanced.
Yeah,
you know
those aren't exactly the traits of a cold-hearted murderer.
Yeah, so they started to get to know me, and some of them started to take a liking to me. So a lot of them, their way of taking a liking to me is like, yo, listen, you got to come on in the back. We got to teach you how to box. And I'm like, yo, I don't know. Listen, you might be here for a long time, man. You need to learn how to really defend yourself, because remember, I'm going through things, and they like, no. I don't want that for you. You got to learn to defend yourself. I'm not going to always be here.
Yeah.
And, you know, shout out, man. It was always guys from the side, East New York, Brownsville.
Brooklyn, stand up. That's where I'm from. Yo, what? Say it again.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Serious. It was always those guys, man. And it's like that was their way of saying, man, I really dig you, man. You all right with me. That was the best they had of themselves to give to me. And I'm thankful for those gifts, you know what I mean? So, you know, you fast forward, I'm upstate, and, you know, me and my pops, we rocking, man. And we trying to get these appeals going. My attorney at the time told my pops, don't pay no more money. We weren't supposed to lose. I got this. Just make sure he stays in as much program.
The same attorney, the rock star.
He's going. And he's like, look, don't worry about nothing. By 95, his health began to fail, and he transitioned. His partner got in contact with me and was like, you know, do you want me to continue? I'm like, yeah, please. I mean, this is all we got. So when he examined things, he was like, yo, listen, Hugh, you don't have any issues that are any good for federal review. And I knew what that meant. Like, nobody's even going to let you in on the federal level. You exhausted your appellate brief. The Court of Appeals didn't even let you in. You don't have nothing for the feds, man. So I was kind of stuck with that. Okay, shit, you're going to have to do this. You have to do this time, but you're going to have to write to people to see if you can get the whole case reopened, not just trying to get back down on a technicality of law. Get the whole case open. Mm-hmm. So that began like years of writing whomever, like different innocence organizations. At the time.
So what year is this when he told you that? I know 95 is when the lawyer passed away. So it was when he'd say, yo, you know what? We exhausted all options.
This is 9/7. This is about 9/7.
So you've been in prison how long now at this point?
At this point, I have been in 8 years. I'm going 8 years in now.
And who was Hugh at this point? Were you still that same guy, or did you turn into the person you had to be in prison?
Yeah, I think at that point is when you start to become numb to a lot of the things that, you know, I would say, damn, I really feel bad for that, or don't do that. Now my mindset was chalking it up to the conditions. Yeah. You're becoming numb. And I remember being on the phone with my father, because it got to the point where we were each other's therapy. He didn't have nothing but four walls. There was no friends. So he was in a prison of his own.
There was no son. There was no wife.
You know what I mean? Right. So he's in his own
empty home. Yeah, that was prison. Yep, exactly.
So, and then I'm coming out to the yard to call him. So our phone calls become each other's therapy. You know what I mean? And I remember him telling me one time, he says, yo, listen, man, he says, I see you. He says, I see you. You know, you're trying to do everything you can to keep your head together. He says, man, don't let that place consume you. Now, you know, my pops, he always, you know, he's Jamaican. He always loved his white rum. So sometimes I have to be like, okay, he's going to drop a jewel, but you're going to have to sift through it and sit with it for a while because he's saying it for a reason, but I know he didn't have the white rum. Some of the things he would say didn't make sense until years later. That was one of the things that, you know, didn't make sense to me until almost the time in which he passed. And then you start to reflect on all of the things that he said to you, and you're like, now it makes sense. Don't let this place consume you. As soon as I stopped allowing, where I was at the time, I was in a place called Otisville. When I stopped allowing it to consume me, things slowly, I shit you not, things slowly started to change. How
did you do that to stop? So what were you doing to have to stop? To do that, you know what I'm saying?
You know, one of the things that I did, I think it was one of the greatest things that I did, was I used to always ask, why me? Like, why am I going through it? Why me? Why me? Why me? And when I started to change the question, the answers and things around me started to change.
What question? Like change the question like what?
Instead of saying, why me? Now my question was, why not? And
why not me?
Why not? And what I mean by why not? This whole thing that happened to me, it has to be someone of remarkable strength and power of spirit to endure it. And not only endure it, to say, okay, I'm going to keep going. And guess what? I'm going to thrive. I'm not just going to exist. You know what I mean? I'm really going to thrive. Why not you? Why not you? So when I started changing that, the things that I thought were things that were like, you know, these drawbacks became strengths. And that's the stuff that starts pushing you forward. So anytime I'm going somewhere and they're telling me you ain't going home, I'm like, I don't even hear it. In my mind, I'm already there. Y'all playing games. I'm already home. And I stayed in that state of mind. And finally, when I went to my last parole board, I remember one of the parole officers getting up before I sat down, folded up her stuff and left. Like, yo, he keeps coming back. He keeps coming back.
What number was this? You say your last one. How many have you went through until
6. Six.
Wow.
6.
What year was this at your 6th one?
2009.
So how many years was that in total?
That made it
like 20 years?
20 years, 8 months altogether.
Whew.
Yeah.
So why when I researched you to say 19, why they try to short that? They try to take some time.
Right. I was joking with my attorneys, like, you know what? I'm not proud of it, but you ain't gonna take it. You ain't gonna take that from me. So no, what it was from the time I was sentenced in 91 to the time I got out. Remember, there was the 2 years that I was on Rikers Island before I got bailed out, and then 3 years before the case was finalized.
Yeah.
Almost 3 years before I was sentenced, you know, in 91. And the case was old since 89.
Yeah.
So those years, they still counted. They actually had to compute those times upstate and give it back to me. So, you know, that's how I ended up. My first parole board was in 2004. So go figure, you know. So that's.
Hold on, I got a question for you. So I watched the Central Park 5, and shout out to them, salute to them as well, the exonerated 5. In that story, they mentioned when you go to parole board, while Corey Watts kept being denied because he would never confess to his to doing the charge, doing what they say he did. He would never confess, like, yo, I didn't do it. And they was like, yo, we need you to be remorseful, and they denied him. When you went to the parole board, was that the same case, and is that the reason why he was denied, or
that's the same?
How did you play it?
That's the same case, and it's interesting. And this is why I say there's nothing off limits. These are the things that my attorney be like, you know, you gotta. But I'm telling them, no, it's part of the story, man. and people have to know why. So I went to my first board in 2004. In 2002, 2001, I realized how close I am to the parole board. To someone who has never done time, 36 months seems like a long time. Based off the time that I've been in there, 36 months is like, wow, people do more time than that on long-term keep lock. That's right here. So I'm like, I call my pops. I'm like, yo, daddy, listen, they have this thing called parole board. So he's like, yeah. I said, okay, well, this is where you go after you finish the time, and they talk to you about the case and stuff like that.
This is your first one. This is 04, right?
This is 04, but the year that I'm telling them this is like 01.
Okay.
Because I know it's coming up close. It's like
6 months. Yeah.
Because stuff is starting to come to me in the mail, like, start getting ready. I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought this much time was going to elapse. So I'm like, yo, I'm telling them what it's about. And I'm like, listen, if you don't go in there and if you don't tell them what they want to hear, usually that's an automatic denial, and they'll continue to keep doing this indefinitely. And I explained to him what the life in my 15 to life meant. So now he's like, oh. So he listens to me and he says, look, man, he says, I know, family, we know you didn't commit this crime. Are you gonna ever see those people in that room again? I said, nah, I'm not gonna see them. He said, so what do you care what they think about you? I need you home. I said, but daddy, you're not the one that gotta go in there and gotta say this thing, man. When they did it to me at 16, it was different. 32, it's a little different now. Says, my son, I need you home. So I wrestled with that. I wasn't going. I was not going for like a couple years. That was 2001, 02, 03. I'm still like, I'm not going to the parole. But now I'm getting word that he's getting sick. Getting sick. So I'm like, you know what? All right, it's coming up. Now they're like, Burton, you got a parole board hearing, you got to get the pre-sentence and all this other thing. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let me see if I can get there. And maybe just him seeing me, maybe that can invigorate something, keep him around. You never know. That's how it is with us sometimes. Sometimes we see things and it ignites you. So I'm like, yo, all right, let's do it. I went in there, I tried to, and I tried to open my mouth and talk, man. And it felt like I just blew mad blood. It was like all this was just closed up.
Yeah, like cotton mouth. It was like chalk.
And I couldn't, and they asked me questions, and they're like, I couldn't talk, and I tried to stammer something out, and they denied me. The following year, that was 04, the following year he passed.
05
in May.
RP.
So thank you. And I was like, you know what? Nah, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. So I was like, I had a decision. I said, if you flip-flop and go in there now and say you didn't, they're gonna deem you as you crazy. Not only are they gonna deny you parole, they're gonna try to put you on medication if you go in there flip-flopping every time you go. So I had to go with that same.
You gotta stick with it.
Now I got to go with that same thing. Along the way, I end up finding an attorney that was like, yo, this ain't right. And she was an appeal for parole appeals. She was an attorney for that. She like, this ain't right.
What year was this?
07.
Okay.
She got on board. When she got on board, she started challenging that. They started sending me back to these parole boards. Deny me. She put something else and get me back there. Finally, when I went in for the 6th time, that's what I said, man, the sister that was on the parole board, 2 white men and sister, she looked up, she saw me, looked back down, started packing up her stuff, took her stuff and left. Now I thought, okay, this is going to be another denial because for violent cases, you need a unanimous thing there.
Yeah.
So at least 3 commissioners. Because you can't have a split decision. One say, yeah, I grant him parole. Another one says, no, I want to deny him. So they need a third person there for violent cases.
Tiebreaker. Yeah.
Tiebreaker. She got up and left. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna let my lawyer know. I'm so used to going in there getting denied, looking for ways to come back.
Yeah.
So if I do that, I'm like,
in your defense, like, okay, you did that.
Okay.
I'm putting it right here.
Eventually they're gonna get tired. So so what I didn't know, it was that day. And I think that I know that there's no rhyme or reason to the parole board. Who they gonna let go, who they gonna let go. And that was my day. And out of 22 people, 2 of us were granted parole. And
2009.
19 others? 19 others?
No, 2009 is that day.
Yeah, 2009. That was in July 2009. So, even with that, I made parole. I'm already faced with a lot of obstacles before I come out.
Like what?
Well, the parole officer that was assigned my case, I didn't know how this works. They get assigned your case when they realize, okay, this guy's been granted parole. He's going to be living this address. This is the parole department that's assigned to that area right there. Then they get the folders and they start passing the folders out amongst the POs that are in that office. My folder comes down there, she gets the folder, she looks at it, she's reading the crime, she's reading all this folder, back up, goes to a supervisor and says, look, I don't want this guy on my caseload. I'm still in jail. I don't want this guy on my caseload. It's like, yo, I ain't nothing I can do about that. You got him. So her mindset was like, I'm gonna find a way to send him back to jail, get him violated, get him off my caseload.
Yeah.
So I'm coming out against that. That's first.
How do you know this? Is this an assumption or a fact? And if it's a fact, how do you know this?
What was so great is because she was my PO for like 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, she was my biggest advocate in the building and ended up telling me everything that happened before I got there.
Love it. Go back to the, I just need to throw that out there. Yeah. Boom. Go back now. Okay. So you're facing that. Boom.
Yeah, so I'm facing that. Also, let's go back in the time capsule. It's 2009. It's July. The bottom had just fallen out in 2008. We're in the height of a recession.
Yeah.
No jobs. This people are scared. So,
so let's go back there. So I want to take you back there. That's a good place. So you're getting out. You said you had these obstacles that you was facing prior to getting out. You finally on parole. Mm-hmm. What did that look like as far as, and going back and tying these conversations together, as far as resources, throwing this 16-year-old minded 37-year-old back on the street? What did that look like for you?
Here's the funny thing. A lot of people don't like to admit they have ideas about what they want to do when they get home. When they get home, though, it's like, okay, this is not going to work. I think Mike Tyson said something about everybody knows what they're going to do when they get into the ring until they get hit in the mouth, and it's like the game plan changes. So now life, hits you in the mouth, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do now? And thankfully, when I got home, I had family that were in position. I had family that were business owners. I had family that were entrepreneurs. I had family that were motivational speakers. And it was like, okay, well, we can find something for you to do, because remember, my PO didn't want me home. I had a job that was in Westchester. She was like, no, you can't take this job. I said, why? She said, it's outside of the 5 boroughs. You see, it says right here, you can't leave. I'm like, but it's up the street from the Bronx. She's like,
I got a guaranteed job. You're telling me to get a job, but you can't get that job. So find another job.
So all of these things are put into place.
Because that's so easy in a depression.
Right.
For a felon.
Exactly.
For a felon. You know what I mean? So a felon with no, real work skills on paper or job history. So it's like, you're close to 40 years old, but you have no work history. Like, where you been? The moon? Like, where have you been? Like, there's no work history. So, you're faced with all of these things, and a lot of times guys don't have either the support group to, make it through that, or don't have the passion or spirit to say, yo, I don't care what they throwing at me, I'm going to make it through that. That's something different.
How you made it through it?
I watched my pops. I watched my pops. My father, when all of this happened, I would sit in amazement. And I'm talking about on Rikers Island. I'm on the island and sit in amazement. He was at every visit, never missed a visit, every week. And he still had the burden of scraping up to money for my defense, take care of his mental state, handle all of my mom's affairs that were left unattended to, and still, for the next 10, 11 years before we sold that house in the Bronx, you slept in the same room that your wife was murdered. And still, you know, you get up every morning with the strength to say, yo, I gotta see it through. I have to get my son. When you're able to watch something like that in real time, it's like, what can't you do? So again, why not? Why not you? You know what I mean? So that gave me a lot of strength, man. And he was smart. He was smart beyond his years. I remember him coming up and saying to me, listen, no one's gonna have nothing for you when you come home. Because he knew, he was listening. He was ostracized by some of his friends, family, as a result of that. Like, yo, why are you even, they said.
They believed?
Right. They're like, yo, the newspaper said he admitted it. What are you doing? Why are you?
Right.
Yo, big up to Pops, because like you said, imagine like the mental, like you visiting your son, you still there for your son, you living in that house, your wife just passed away, you handling her affairs, and then you getting ostracized by your close ones. So you don't even have his support because they saying, why are you going to visit the person that you looking forward to visit every weekend?
Every week. And you know, and it then, like I said, it got to a point where I didn't know it because I'm young at the time, but I'm actually becoming his strength. I'm leaning on him, but he's coming up. We leaning on each other. You know what I mean? So when I watched that, I remember the last time I saw him, I was in Fishkill, and they brought him up.
Fishkill, that's a prison, right? Maximum.
Well, it's a medium. It's a medium prison. At certain times in the early it was a place. It was a place. Let me say that. But they brought him up there from Jamaica. He had needed some health care that they didn't have down there. So a cousin of mine brought him up. So they're like, make sure you take him up there to, you know, see me before he leaves. So I'm pumped. I'm like, I can't wait to see him, man.
Pops, yeah.
Right. You know, it's been a couple of years, right? Yeah. But at the time I'm like 28, 29, you know what I mean? So I'm like, yo, I'm all right now. You know what I mean? We're gonna be good. And he comes up and we talking, I'm looking, I'm like, there's something different. So my cousin, she's doing most of the talking. And I'm sitting down and I'm asking him more questions. And I'm realizing I'm just getting like a nod or yeah. And I realize he doesn't even know who I am anymore. The Alzheimer's and the early dementia, everything like accelerated. So he's just there in shell. Like, you know, this is somebody you know, but you don't know them. So that was for me, that was a real humbling visit. That was the last visit I saw him. So that was a humbling one. And I was like, you know what? He went as far as he could in this fight. It's your turn. Let's go. So I know I watched him walk out that day, and I knew that was going to be like the last time I saw him, and it was. You know what I mean? That was like 2003. So
and then he passed away in 2005.
2005. So remember, I went to the board 2004, you know, thinking like, well, maybe there'll be enough time. I can see him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Go in there and do what he said to. 2005, gotten word. Well, after I went to the board, I guess somebody must have told him, listen, for whatever he could remember, like, yo, they didn't let him go, or they denied him parole. A few months after that, he was done. So, you know,
so you got the strength. So you got the strength for Pop, seeing him go through all of that, and now you. So did you get a job? You got the strength. You like, you know what? I'm gonna get through this. I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna be someone in society. When did the Innocent Project come into play? And how did that come to play? And where were you at that time of your life, particular time of your life?
Okay, so by 2000, after my pops passed, I'd already been writing different organizations to see if I can get this whole case reopened. And I remember writing to the Innocence Project, and they wrote me back and were like, you don't have any issues of DNA. Innocence Project was kind of a small one-stop at the time. And they were like,
what year was this?
This is I want to say '06. I had worked there for the first time. So they weren't dealing with cases that didn't have issues of DNA, because issues of DNA definitely proves one's innocence.
Sorry, and what's BNA?
DNA.
Oh, DNA. Got it.
DNA. Oh, it sounded like I said DNA.
It's our accent, bro. It's our accent. We different, you heard?
So what they did do is they actually forwarded that letter that I wrote, that intake letter, to Northwestern out in Chicago. And they dealt with, kids being coerced into confessions. When they got the letter.
Northwestern had another organization? Was it just Northwestern?
A lot of times these law schools have clinics. And the clinics, sometimes the teachers in these clinics are still practicing lawyers. They still have cases that they're doing. Okay. So when they sent it out there, that attorney was like, I think I remember this case. And, they ended up getting in contact with me, but the person from the Innocence Project was like, listen, there is just something about this letter this guy wrote. It'll be so long before the Innocence Project gets to it. There's something I believe in this. It's just something about the letter. So he took it. They ended up getting in contact with me. And when they did, being that they were in Chicago, I was in New York, they had another law clinic in Rutgers and Newark. They had them on the line. So there's this conference call with about 11 people. And they're just deciding, they want to hear about the case from my mouth on the phone. And they're deciding whether or not, if they're going to take it. So I'm going through this whole thing, and I'm telling them, look, I know how this works. I'm glad that, people are really, into wanting to look at this. But I said, I've been to multiple parole boards, and I'm about to go to another one. And I said, you guys have dealt with parole board things. I said, you know what they want you to say. So they were like, look, we know what that whole parole board nonsense is about. Don't worry about that. Go to your board. Do you. You make it out. You call us and you tell us whether or not you still want to run. I said, all right. Went into the board with no. They had gotten that 06. By the time they got to me, was like, we're talking 08.
And then you got released, you got parole in 09.
09.
So home?
Now, I'm home, first phone call. I made that board. They said, well, what do you want to do? I said, let's fight. They said, meet us at the Starbucks. That's what started that. And we worked hard.
So they say meet you at the Starbucks. This is the lawyers and the team from Northwestern, or this the Innocent Project now?
This is the team that was over here at Newark at Rutgers, because they were close.
The other clinic.
It's the other clinic. So
Newark is working with you now.
They're working with me, but I'm actually Northwestern. They're the first ones. So they're still working together, but being that Rutgers is close to me, they'll come out, meet, we'll sit down and
got you.
Stuff.
See, good things do come out of New Jersey.
They do. So we worked and we uncovered a lot of things. And in 2016, we hit a wall. And
what was that wall?
We knew we had all of the evidence, but there's one thing of having everything, but having it organized in such a way to present it where someone.
Hold on. So this is 2000. So 2009, you got released. You first phone call, you call them. They said, meet me at the Starbucks. From that time, and now it's 2016. You hit a wall. But do y'all have either a court date, or y'all still gathering up information?
We don't have a court date. No, we don't have nothing. We've just done investigative work. We've just done all this thing, piecing things, trying to get evidence. Evidence has been scattered to the winds. We're pulling all of it together. And one of the attorneys was like, yo, I think we finally got enough. We need to talk to somebody and just show them. So my attorney from Northwestern was at a event with one of who would ultimately become my attorney at the IP, the Innocence Project. He asked to be introduced to somebody. That introduction, when it was made, he was like, look, you need to take a look at this. And that was 2016, and that started a whole reinvestigative thing in the case. What I was asking for, just open it, let's look at it, let's unpack it. So from 2016, they worked in conjunction with a Bronx Conviction Integrity Unit, man. Shout out to the Bronx Conviction Integrity Unit, man.
Wow.
It would not have been possible without them saying, okay, we see what y'all are saying. My lawyers could have argued till they were blue in the face. You know what I mean? It was.
Hold on. So who you just gave a shout out to? Can you just describe what do they do so the viewers and audience and everyone can know?
Conviction Integrity Unit is like a unit that oversees cases that may have had claims of innocence to it. It's like an oversight.
It's a nonprofit?
No, they actually are working out of, you know what I mean, the Bronx DA's office.
Oh, it's a government organization.
It's a unit.
Division. Yeah. See, so that's very important. Okay.
Right. So Brooklyn has one. Bronx has one. They have a Conviction Integrity Unit. So just to make sure.
It's like the IA. It's like the IA for cops for the DA.
Exactly. So it's like just to make sure that, you know, all of these convictions do have a degree of integrity to it and that we stand on our decisions. So we're a unit that's going to look at that. So they looked at it and they finally got to a point. They were like looking at all the evidence. They were like, yeah, we need to bring him in here. I want to hear from him. Because they couldn't really wrap their mind around how someone, if you didn't commit this crime, how did someone convince you to say you did something like this if you didn't do it, which is always the sticking point for people.
Mm-hmm.
And
what year is this?
This is 2018.
Okay.
Late 2018.
Okay.
They get me in there, and I'm sitting there with the Bronx District Attorney, my attorneys, and we're talking. And after we finished, they realized that, you know, wait a minute, man, this isn't right. When you're reading this case, it should gnaw at you morally, regardless of what your position is or in life. It should gnaw at you morally to know what was done, what they did, and what they tried to cover up. You know, you're talking having two folders. One folder with evidence that you turn over to the defense, but the other folder with all of the exculpatory evidence in it, you have it hidden. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a breakdown in your moral compass, and like, you know, how can you do that? And it's not only that, you did this to a child, and you know, it's not even as if I was some guy who was some kingpin in the neighborhood and you had to do whatever you had to do to make sure that he was taken off of the street. It's talking about that. You know, you're talking about taking a kid out of high school and you're like, okay, you're gonna wear this. And we're going to double down on it when our whole story starts to unravel. And I would love to go into that, man, so I can bring all of that.
Because I still got that lady that was outside.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm holding her. Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I also still have a question about this car that they found.
Okay, so here's what ended up happening. So like I said, on January 11th, the funeral, I was indicted and they found the car. So the Bronx detectives had all points bulletin on this car. If you find the car, you know, you call us. So the car is in a traffic violation, moving violation. They pull it over, they run it. Oh, wow, this is the car that has this thing on it. Let's call you, come with us. take the car, take the person into custody, bring them into Mount Vernon. They call the Bronx. Hey, that car you were talking, we found the car. My arresting officers, they run. Okay, let's go up there. We're going to close this case off and we'll be done with it. They get there, they say, okay, well, show us the guy. To their horror, when they show them the guy, it's our tenant from downstairs, whom they questioned on 3rd and said that he was a person that he wasn't important. He's okay. He had been driving the car around since the 3rd and had been parking it not too far from our house every night. Go figure. So
What? Why?
And how did they clear him?
Okay, I'll get to that. That's great.
Let me just shut up.
Okay, boom. So now they have him in the precinct. They go into the precinct. When they see it's him, they're like, we have a problem. We have a problem because we made the kid say that he owed a local drug dealer $200, so he gave him the car for payment. That's the story we made the kid say.
That kid.
Me. That's what they made me say. And that's in my confession.
In your statement, you included.
That's part of my. That's what they had me saying, that I owed money to a local drug dealer, and he called and wanted the money, and I couldn't.
Did they make you put the? They try to pin the drug dealer name? Did they make you snitch?
They try to give me a guy's name. They give me these pictures and say, "Is it him? Is it him?" And I'm like, I don't know them. So, all right. So now they have a problem because now you have the tenant who you have on paper questioning and saying is okay, is in possession of the car. But the statement that the kid, the statement the child made is that he gave the car away. Why is the tenant in possession of the car if he gave the car away to a drug dealer who he's supposed to be looking for?
Unless he's a drug dealer. And that's a whole other problem.
But listen, so they're like, okay, they call his girlfriend or wife. I'm not sure what she was, but that was the young lady who was standing downstairs, okay? She was in the apartment when I came in and made the discovery. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and probably just to hear this child screaming and crying, you can't stand to hear that. You went outside. So when I came out, you're standing with your back to the door. And as I come out the door, running outside, you turn around and you embrace me. And you say to me, it's going to be all right. I never knew why, but I'm just screaming and I'm frantic.
She asked you what happened. She said it's going to be all right. Oh!
It's also really not normal, in my opinion, that you would hear a child scream like that and not run towards the danger and be like, are you okay?
Right.
What's happening?
So now she's outside. And she's telling the police she had gotten locked out. She didn't have her key. She has no coat. No. Yeah, she didn't get locked out. I'm sorry. She didn't have a key. So she's outside.
It's January. I remember you telling it was January. It's cold as hell in New York in January.
So she has on something like this standing outside.
Don't make any sense.
They bypassed all that. So they called her, that same woman, they called her up to the precinct. We got to get this thing together. Because now they know it's obvious both of y'all lied when we questioned y'all on the 3rd. So you two had something to do with this, but we made the kid say he did it. And we had him on the cover of every major newspaper, on the news, on the radio. We have to double down on that. We can't say we made a mistake.
Yeah.
What did you do or say to him to make him say he did something like that if he didn't do it? Nobody wanted to answer that. So they said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to hook it up like the kid still did everything, but you went up there and you just took the car. He gave you the car. So what they did, they put it in such a way that it just gave him enough where it explains why you have the car, but you don't have any involvement, so you don't have to answer any questions to that. They lock him up for grand larceny. They ROR him later that year in 89. He was on parole for rape and robbery. We didn't know that. There was no internet to check somebody's background back then. If you're bringing them into your house, you're kind of looking and feeling and say, okay, cool.
Oh, so you never ran back into him because he was obviously in prison. You never crossed paths in prison?
Never crossed paths with him. So I'm 16. He was an older dude. He was just living downstairs. So they ROR'd him. The woman, she disappeared. Right? One day, shortly after this happened, they had me arrested. My father says his spirit didn't feel right about these people. He's the landlord. He has the keys to everybody's place. He goes into the place with my uncle and another family friend. Goes in, right there on top of the dresser, all the stuff in my mom's glove compartment is up on the thing there. The family friend, Black American, is like, listen, close the door back because technically you're not supposed to be in here. Go call the police. Close it back, go call the police. My pops comes up to Rikers Island telling me them and the police are arguing in front of the door. And he's saying, yo, go in there. My wife's things are in there. These people did that. They're arguing. The woman comes, walks in. So now this is their door. This is the end thing. This is their door here. My father's on one side of the door. The cop is on the other side of the door. She walks in between with this bag, takes all of that stuff my father says and sweeps it in. I remember I can't attest to this. I'm locked up. Sweeps it all into the bag and turns around and walks out. My father said he's in tears begging the cop. He's holding on to the cop's arms like, yo, please just search the bag. My wife's things are in the bag. Please. He wouldn't. Because the nonsense was already in play. It was already in play.
Backtrack.
Yeah. Can I know that this is jumping forward a little bit, but how was that for you finding this information out that like it's just jumbled justice. It's not, or like it's justice possibly could have been served and it wasn't. Things were swept under the rug. Things were like this is just it's terrible the way that this happened. Absolutely horrific the way that this happened, and that people who are sworn to serve and protect did exactly the opposite to you. Yeah. And when they found this information out, like you said, they doubled down. Like, did you ever see the people who were responsible again? Like, what happened to them?
The gentleman, as I said, he was ROR sometime in late 1989. He was subsequently
so some people that might not know what
ROR means that he was released on his own recognizance, meaning that there may be another appearance for you to come to court, or it's just okay. We're just going to release you. There's nothing else. You have to come back in here. So you just made yourself an accessory to murder. You have it where you're driving a stolen vehicle, but they ROR you. Courtesy of the prosecutor in my case. So it's like, all right, he goes home and some months thereafter, he's subsequently murdered. The woman was never seen or heard from again. We're not done with Miss Lady. You know what I mean? I'll leave that part there. We're not done with Miss Lady. There's still some questions that need to be answered, and she's the only one who can answer them at this point.
Gotcha. But what else did the DA? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just realizing, if this guy had the keys to your mother's car, then in theory he would have the keys to the apartment too, right? So I don't know at what point he got the keys, whether he was in the apartment first and got the keys, or had the keys and that's how he gained access to the apartment. No, because if he knocked on the door,
she will open the door for him because he's familiar. So if you're like, I could use your bathroom. I'm locked out outside. Can you?
Well, here's how they came up to the house, because the timing of these things is very important. Remember, this is January 3rd. a lot of people don't realize the close proximity of time in which we rented them the apartment. We rented them the apartment right before Thanksgiving of 1988.
Okay.
All right. So if you're renting an apartment and you're giving 1 month security and you're giving 1 month deposit, your first month payment would be January. Okay. That would be your first month. Him coming up there.
January 3rd, because you got to the 5th, right? Grace period.
Exactly. So that's why whatever happened, however you gained entry to the apartment, my mother was not thinking anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's just, I left her in her house. You know, you had the house coats and she's sitting on the couch watching TV. So, you know, you're thinking, oh, the guy from downstairs must be coming to pay me my rent.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
So you said the prosecutor 2018, y'all give him all this information. Y'all go through the story, understand, like, you know what? We see what you see. What happened next after that?
They set a date to actually have this be part of the record. I asked my attorneys, I said, you know, I'm usually a quiet and reserved person. I said, but in this circumstance here, I need you guys to make this as loud as you possibly can. I need you to make this louder than when they paraded me with the lie that I was being taken to family court. I need you to make this loud. I need you to make all of them know, you know what I mean, what they did, the work we did here for what they knew, you know. So make it loud, man, you know. So it was one of those kind of things. So when the day of the exoneration came, I was actually in court, and you know, all of the attorneys, they were pretty much speaking, you know, with their contribution, things in which they did, and you know, their thoughts on the case, and they were getting ready to say, you know, look, we're gonna throw this conviction out. I said, no, I have something to say, you know, and I had some stuff on paper, and I was getting ready to take the paper up to the podium, and I'm like, nah, you waited 30 years to talk. You better not carry no damn paper. You better open your heart and talk. So I just went up there and I pretty much just talked about, man, all of the people, why I'm here, why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, so that day was it was a good one. It was a good one, man. Very empowering, you know? Very empowering. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, and again, even with that, what's interesting is like, even as I'm up there and I'm talking, I'm like, the work has just started, because the only thing they did was say, well, Huwe Burton, you're not responsible. Nobody has been held responsible. We know the tenant that died. We know you did this. But we know that there were other people involved in this. We also know that my arresting officers did this same thing to at least 2 other people from late 88 to 1989 when they did this to me. We know that. We also know that my prosecutor, who facilitated all this, is now a sitting judge in Queens. We know this. You're not fit to full sway judge over anybody. So for me, you know, the work is just starting. My exoneration was just my way of saying, well, I told y'all so. Now let's get to work. That was just to give me my dignity back. That's all the exoneration was for me, and to show the hard work that my attorneys put in to make that happen. But the real work starts now. Somebody has to be held accountable. And that's what I'm here for. That's why I get up every day, man. That's why I'm never tiring of talking and going on these things, because somebody has to be held accountable. And it has to be shown that if you do this in your professional career, it's not going to go well for you. And I want this case to be that case where it's like, wow, I never thought the day I would see so-and-so go to prison because there's so many laws that protect them from going to prison, even after they've ruined people's lives. And they have they don't care that they ruined people's lives. So
Hugh, I'm sorry, Gina, so the viewers could see it, and listeners, I don't know if you felt that and it was impactful to you as well, but Hugh, you shed some tears.
Yeah.
What those? Can you tell the listeners, like, what do those tears mean? Like, where did that come from, and what made you say that at that moment?
I think what it is for me, when I look at this whole case, what they were trying to do, let's look at it. You take a kid and you put him in there under the worst set of circumstances. He can't even really get his head together with what he just saw. You take him and you put him in the worst possible condition at the worst point in the city's history and say, okay, thrive. You take evidence, you hide it, you railroad him, and you sentence that child to 15 years to life. You make that child watch his father deteriorate. You make him go through all of these different things. He doesn't lose his mind. He doesn't play crazy. He doesn't get on any type of meds. That's not what was expected. I was supposed to be out of my mind, or someone was supposed to do something to me where I never saw the light of day. That was the plan. The plan was not for me to make parole, for me to fight the next 10 years, to get exonerated and still have the strength to say, I'm coming for you. That wasn't supposed to happen. So when you see me break up, you see me choke up like that, it's like, I look at my life like, man, you survived some shit, Yeah.
What you're describing, honestly, it sounds like 30 years of torture, intentional torture from an institution, again, that is supposed to protect you and to be there for you, to support you. And the ironic thing is, for me too, and what you're saying is that you, an innocent person, your whole life was torn apart for something you didn't do. And these officers that did this to you, who did commit a crime, who did do something horribly wrong, got to go on with theirs. And that's not okay.
It's not okay.
And actually, a person who committed the crime, even though he got what was due to him and he was murdered, he got away with that crime.
Well, you know what? Let's put it in this type of a framework. He committed the crime. You realize that, okay, what we had this child say this is not going to hold up. Seasoned detectives, along with a prosecutor, conspired with their actual murder to cover up a murder and frame an innocent child. No, somebody needs to be in handcuffs, man. Somebody needs to be in cuffs. Just think about that for a second. Those who are commissioned to protect you conspire with the person they know, not that they think, that they know is the murderer, to say, we're going to double down on that and we're going to do this to this child.
Oh, yeah. That's crazy.
Nah.
Yo, good catch, Gina and Hugh. You absolutely right. You absolutely right, my brother.
Yeah. It's lots of deep breaths during this episode. Like I said, it was a bad one to wear makeup for.
I have something for you, Hugh, man. So devil's advocate, two sides of the coin, right? So you speak of what sound like the injustice of our justice system and the police department, especially within New York City, right? And given the climate of America today, you have that side, right? That defunding police and police reform. Reform from the police system and things of that nature. However, on the flip side, you have a president that's currently in office that someone would consider a racist. However, that same president has put in place procedures and practices that within prison reform. He put in policies within prison reform, and he's pro-prison reform. Where is your stance as far as how do you see that? Is it, hey, that's great what he's doing and you support that? Or do you still push from the liberal side and say, you know what, there's other things that need to be done and that is just a mask of what he's doing?
First, let me say this. I'm scared of the liberal side. Scared of them. I'll get into that.
Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, with the liberal side, the liberal side is saying, we need more defunding, we need more. With the liberals, it seems like just a shuffling of money. This is a shuffle. We're just putting money in different places. We need a prison reform, so that means, okay, there needs to be money put into these programs. Programs that if you have been in them, if you've been around them, if you understand them, do not work. It's just the allocating of money, and people who have degrees and nothing to do with the degrees are getting a salary. And the product are people who really need help, i.e. Black people coming through there. And it's just being recycled. So liberals, man, it's just a lot of shuffling of money and a lot of hashtags and, reentry and reform. Those things are your responsibility, my responsibility, for those who look like us in there. We come from them. We understand that they don't have their best interests. They're doing things to recycle them. Who's they? I'm speaking about liberals in particular.
I just want to, I'm just clarifying. Yeah. Thank you, brother.
So I'm careful with that. I'm very careful with that. And also,
what's your perspective on the flip side, from a conservative standpoint?
On the conservative side, what's very interesting with them, I don't consider myself one, but I understand that it's like you want to make people self-sufficient where you don't have to put so much stress and emphasis on assistance in government. You don't grow. You don't grow. If I'm constantly giving you fish, you will never go out there and say, how do I line my pole up? Where do I go to learn to fish? You will never be self-sufficient. Some people would like for us to live in a society where we're just given a piece of fish every day. You lose something. You lose something if you feed an animal every day. And I hate to liken it to that, but if you feed an animal every day, eventually he loses that natural instinct to go out and hunt for food, and he's going to expect you to feed him every day. You lose something of yourself, man. And as long as we're doing that as a people, you lose that self-sufficiency. I remember being in the Bronx as a child, and my father would try to bring me outside and say, come, let me show you how to plant some food. In my naive mind, I'm saying, why are we planting tomatoes on the side of the house? I can just go up the street. And he's looking at me, shaking his head like, don't let America do that to you. Learn to use your hands to grow food. Wasn't until years later, now he's gone, and I'm like, wow, if they shut the supermarkets down and shut down deliveries to that thing, what do we do to eat? Being self-sufficient, I can understand that side of the table. What's going on with liberals and, conservatives and all that thing, that's not Black people business, bro. That's not our business, man. We say, okay, but we're affected by that. That's not our business. We have to tend to our business. There are other communities. I'm not sure Chinese care who goes in that office, man. Chinese business gonna still keep going. Don't matter who's there. They don't care who's there. The more your money is circulation, the more you use money to build up inside. You don't care. Don't care what y'all are doing. It's usually those who are affected by all of these things, these policies and all this stuff, who have the most okay, we have to say something about it. They don't have those problems, man. And now as far as police reform, I don't know what that looks like. When we say we want to reform the police, we want to defund the police. What does that look like? You're taking what I don't know. First of all, I don't know what funding the police looks like. So I don't know what defunding them looks like. You know, you have to, how are y'all funded before we talk about taking away from you? I don't know. So
where's that money coming from? And then where's it going?
Exactly. So, you know, a lot of times they give you these phrases and people, we just scream them and we don't understand what that means. In New York right now, I think shootings have gone up, like spiked.
What, since COVID, right?
Since COVID. And let me show you something. For some reason, the closer we draw to this election, the more random violence you're just seeing. Yeah. But oddly enough, they're not in Republican cities, but that's a whole nother topic. Yeah.
We could be here all night for so many topics.
Yeah, it seems to be all of this chaos and all this stuff and, you know, rioting. It's like it's in the liberal cities. I don't know. I don't know. It might be me. I might be looking at it wrong. You know, but it's, I don't know. You know, like I said, with this thing here, it's very confusing. Like I said, the closer we draw towards these elections, the more crazy things are gonna get, man. Yeah. Really, they're gonna get crazy.
But one last thing I asked you that you didn't mention was Trump's prison reform.
Trump's prison reform.
What's your feelings on that?
I don't know. When it comes to anything that's coming out of that box, when it comes to people like Trump, you don't know what is real and what is not real. I don't know if he's making any real strides in prison reform. And let me say this, real prison reform is arming people with the tools that they need to not just make a little bit of living, but to have sustainable living, man. Like something that they can really look back and say, yeah, look, I can start generational wealth now. That's what prison reform looks like. You're from New York. Mm-hmm. At the height of prisons, when Pataki was governor, at the height, there were 72,000 prisoners in New York State. Okay? 85% of the total population of New York State prisoners were from the 5 boroughs. Now, peep this. Out of that 85% out of the 5 boroughs, they all came from 7 neighborhoods. Right. So it's like, wait a minute. That's why everybody in prison knows everybody. Y'all come from 7 neighborhoods: Bedford-Stuyvesant, Harlem, the South Bronx, South Jamaica, Queens, Flatbush, Cramp. You know the areas. 7 neighborhoods.
I'm from the Star. Yeah, I'm from Bedford-Stuyvesant.
7 neighborhoods. So you're saying, wow, 85% of 72,000 people come from 7 neighborhoods. That's by design, man. And they have something to contribute more than just coming back and doing more of the same. We have to do something to help arm them. What is viable skills that one needs to be productive out here now? You can't give somebody, say, hey, well, they got a small engines program over here. Well, I live in New York. I'm not going to be fixing lawnmowers. I'm just not going to be doing that. So it's fair. So you need skills that one can come out and grow into, but something that society needs, because you are paying a debt to society. That's why they say they send you to prison. The debt is not finished now that you've come home. The debt, especially in our communities. Some of us really tore our communities up. You owe. You owe. So, you know, you want to get back out there and be productive. And I think most people want to be productive, but people want them in programs as opposed to working. You need to go to this violence program, but I had a drug charge. I don't care. You need to go to this drug program, but I don't use drugs. You do now. So it's like they're just putting bodies in these programs because they need a reason when time comes around, when money is allocated towards them. Oh, okay, you can get money for this program, but it's not there to help or assist the person that's going through it.
It seems like just an extension of prison.
That's pretty much that's all it is. It's an extension of prison because you can go back at any time.
Yeah.
You know.
Man. So I wanted to ask, because I know that there are still proceedings going on for you, that you said that this having your freedom is just the beginning. So what is next?
What is next?
I mean, for you in general, you're doing speaking engagements. What are you doing next?
I'm trying to put all of my energy into utilizing this case. My misfortune, as an example, when I speak about the prosecutor in my case, when I speak about the officers, hold them accountable to the point where something is you've never seen before. Again, there's so many laws that protect them to ensure that they never see the inside of a prison. They made me wait 30 years to say I'm innocent. I have patience. So, when you ask what's next, until we go back and correct what's back there, there is no moving forward.
Does that mean, when you say correct, does that mean from a civil standpoint, that mean you want those officers to be arrested? Like, what do that mean?
Yeah, I want this case, I want people arrested. I want them stripped of whatever job titles they have now. I want them to see the inside of what they put me through knowingly. You need to see that. You need to see what that does. And you need to see it after you've experienced all of the great things in your life, because certainly after my conviction, they went on and had great lives. I sat.
That's crazy. Your case kind of made them. They strive from you.
Pretty much. The prosecutor in my case she hadn't been on the job that long. She's now a judge. So, a lot of people made their bones. And again, I watched a man who came here, who reluctantly came here, because my mother wanted to practice nursing, and it was a great opportunity in the early 70s for West Indian women to do nursing. She had gotten a nursing degree in England, so she wanted to come over here and get it in. My father was he was a musician, he was a sax player. He had a band, he's traveling. She wanted to come here. He's like, all right, he can't bring the band with him. So, all right, let me break the band up. I'll find something to do in America. I'm good with my hands. I'm self-sufficient. He builds a business, interior, exterior decorating, wallpaper, roofing, whatever. He does it all. He builds that, not really wanting to be in the country, but, look, I built a life here. Cool. You're doing whatever it is you do. You become a homeowner. Now you're kind of making money hand over fist. Things
in
are
the richest city in America.
Exactly.
Refugees in the richest city in America.
Getting it. It's clicking. Everything is clicking. And, this happens. And then you watch everything that you've built up. You just watch it just stripped away from you, man. Money, just everything. People that you had good standing with, they don't even want to call you, they don't want to talk to you. When I look at all that, then when I look at how it ended, you don't even have any memory of everything that just happened. It's like, no, y'all cannot be allowed to go on as everything is normal and everything is okay. Not as long as I have breath in my lungs. I can't allow you to do that. I'm not honoring the memory of them by allowing you to do that. Like I said, my exoneration is just my victory. I haven't given theirs yet. You gave my mother a 48-hour investigation, and you let my father just suffer. You know what I mean? For 13 years, just suffer. So no, money doesn't ease that. There is no amount that you can really give me to ease that. And I want what I want. You know, and people have to be held accountable, and they have to be made known that you cannot do this to anybody else again.
Is that in process?
Yes.
Like, is either one of those
Um,
civil case or the proceedings for justice for those individuals that serve your injustice? Is that in process?
well, things are in the process. Things are moving. Um, they they have a way in which they do things. So um, they may say, okay, well, let's start marching everybody in here and let's start getting depositions. Let's get what everybody knows and when they knew it. My whole thing is, I have a plan. That part I'll keep close to the chest for now, but I have a
You
plan.
hold that, and we see it
Yeah,
unfold.
as you see it unfold, man. But I have a plan, and my thing was I had a plan. I had a plan before. You know what I mean?
And it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
So I have another plan, man. So God willing, it works.
We believe you. We believe in you here at Toast to the Coaches.
Thank you.
Seriously, man. Definitely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Well, we have just spent 2 hours hearing your amazing story because you are just a beautiful human, and your story is amazing. Like Coach Phoenix and I both, we feel for you. We are completely on your side with this. If there's by any means anything that we can do to help you, please let us know. We would love, obviously by this platform sharing your story, we hope that it just helps to get the word out for you. And we're also just so thankful that you are here and that you did persevere and that you held on to that strength from your parents, from your father, and that you continue to pick up that mantle and carry it forward because you are a human that the world needs to have. So thank you.
Appreciate that. I really do. And again, my whole thing is I'm just glad to be here because it's like they didn't want this. They really didn't want this. They wanted this buried. They literally had two prosecutors' folders. One that they didn't turn over, one they turned over. The one they turned over was probably as thick as this phone. The other one had everything in it. You know what I mean? So they never wanted this to come to light. So I don't know.
You beat the odds.
Yeah. And again, now that I have the opportunity to do it, I'm humbled by it. And I'm glad that there are people such as yourselves who are interested in some type of real justice and some type of understanding of what is going on. I appreciate that. So, you guys afford me the platform to do that. It's like, that makes my day. So again, thank you all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So thank you on behalf of Gina and I, Toast to the Coaches, man, our audience. Thank you for blessing the stage and your presence and your story. You're impactful. You're powerful. Like I said, I'm from New York City, man. That could have been me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you, man. And shout outs to you. RIP to your lost ones, to Mom Dukes, to your godmother, to your father. Definitely. But before you go, this is my favorite part of the show. It's called The Thing of the Week.
Okay.
So the Thing of the Week is where we provide inspiration, stories, a novel, something that motivated us this week that we want to share with our audience and carry them to the next time we meet. With that being said, my Thing of the Week is this. Be a part of the Innocent Project's groundbreaking work to free the innocent people and transform the legal system. With your support, we can do even more in 2020. Donate today, right now, by visiting www.innocentproject.org. I say again, www.innocentproject.org. Click the blue button in the top right. It says donate, large in print. Contribute what you can. This is Coach Phoenix, Role Model Mindset, and I'm out. Coach Gina.
Yeah, I second that thing of the week. There are so many more people like you said, that go through this experience. Like you said, that there's at least two other people that you know about that have gone through a similar situation. So, you know, this is ongoing work that needs to be done to change the justice system and the wrongful convictions. So my thing of the week is The Innocence Files. It's a Netflix documentary series produced by the Innocence Project. The series focuses on 8 exonerees and 3 cases of wrongful conviction. The show was released earlier this year, so if you enjoyed hearing Hugh's story, which I know that I did, please also check out other people's stories as well. Like I said, this isn't a one-off. This does happen, and we need to fight this together. So educate yourselves, hear their stories, hear the people who have gone through this, and do what you can to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And at this time, Hugh, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, definitely. We hear things like prison reform and a lot of different hashtags and reentry. These are things that our politicians use because they know that these are things that are near and dear to many of us. Once a lot of these things are over, they're going to go back to business as usual. People's lives are still going to be languishing. Don't allow reform of prisons or reentry to just become a hashtag for politicians. They are real people going through real things, and things are affecting them. And a lot of these politicians are putting things in place that are affecting them in adverse ways. So don't allow it to be that. It's our responsibility. People going to prison and, you know, how they come back out it's our responsibility.
So you say our, who's our, you?
It's Black people's responsibility. Those who are going to prison, and the communities that they're coming back to, it's our responsibility to make sure that things are facilitated where they are in an environment in which they can grow and not depend on someone else to say they're going to do that for you. They're not going to do that for you. So don't allow it to be a hashtag, man. Get involved. Learn whatever you can. Trust me. If you live in this country, if you're Black, either you, someone you know, an uncle, a brother, a grandfather, a father, nephew, it doesn't matter, grandmother, mother, is going to go through some type of injustice with police in this country, man. So, you know, 31 years ago, it was me. Next week, it can be your nephew. You know what I mean? It hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. So don't allow politicians just to make that a hashtag for you. Get involved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You heard it from the horse's mouth, man. Someone who's been through it, lived it, and now is trying to fight and help other individuals stay away from what he went through, help individuals be acknowledged and have the guidance to know, like, hey, these things are happening, do something about it, donate your time, research, have an understanding, and help fight this injustice. Thank you to Innocent Projects for connecting us with Hugh. Hugh, thank you for blessing us with your time. Audience, viewers, thank you for listening to us yet again. Coach Gina, Coach Phoenix, we love you, and we out. Cheers.
Cheers.